So hello Dan, thank you for taking the time today to do this interview. How are you doing today first off?
All good, thanks Alf. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. So to start off this interview, let's take a look back to last season, your first full season with London Bees. It ended with a 6-2 away win to Chester United. Can you sum up how your first season has been with the Bees and what could you take away from it all?
I think overall, extremely positive season. Obviously, when we came in the door here into June last summer, the club was in a challenging place. I think both sort of on and off the pitch. There's a lot of work to do, and I think our goal for last year really was just make sure that we could stabilise things, start to put in the foundations that we felt were necessary to be able to allow the club to climb back up the leagues again. And yeah, if you said to me at the start of the season we would have had the year that we did in terms of obviously the fourth place finish is nice, but I think the sort of the growth and the journey that we went on, the 13 game unbeaten run was really nice. The FA Cup run was obviously fantastic for the club, obviously financially, as well as just the sort of atmosphere that it created around the place and the belief it gave everybody. So super positive season. We got all the right people in the door, and we've had a good year to sort of work with them and mould them into the way that we want to sort of move forward. So yeah, I think last year was extremely positive, but at the same time we can't get carried away in the sense that we don't want to be a tier 4 team. The club and the board have aspirations to be operating at higher levels, which is great, and that's what we all want. So yes, whilst last season was really good, and I think we overachieved in a number of areas, it's very much only sort of the beginning, hopefully.
So just looking again the end of last season and even just before then, you started retaining some of your key players by offering new contracts. Can you tell us how important that was for you looking towards for this new campaign heading up?
Huge. I think continuity within the squad's really, really important, and as I said, we put a lot of time and effort in with the playing group last year, and we believe there's some really, really good players in there, but most importantly some great people and excellent characters, and we wanted to make sure that we kept as much of that around as we possibly could. One of the things that we sort of said to ourselves when we started this project was, last year we needed to get the right group in. We were accepting that there was work to be done in sort of certain areas, but we knew that we kind of had the year really to be able to do that and get it into a position, I think, where we finished the season in a really sort of strong place, ready to kick on for this coming year. And so obviously, keeping the core of that is important. And we've got some fantastic players that have developed massively last season, who hopefully this year will kick on and be the driving forces that we need to achieve what we want to this year.
So to just follow on quickly, let's talk about some of the key players that you did have kept at the club. So one being Millie Isherwood, young striker when she first came here, but she scored about 18 goals in the season. Mira Hottie, she's representing her country recently in the summer break. So as you just carried on there, really, how pleased and proud would you say the development of some of these key players have been, but also like on and off the pitch, really?
Yeah, you mentioned Millie there. Millie had a good season last year for sure, but I think it's important as well not to get carried away too quickly. And I think there's a lot more still to come from her. And what we need to see from her this year is contributions in the big games now when it really counts. The goal return that she pitched in with last season was fantastic, and you can't take that away from her. But coming into this year, there's going to be some really big games, and we need big game players to step up in those moments. So that's the next progression sort of set for her. Mira, I think, had a fantastic season last year, and obviously she was with me previously and has just developed year on year. I've had the pleasure of working with her, and it was lovely to see her rewarded with that call up over the summer, and obviously competing in the Asian Cup qualifiers for Lebanon is a fantastic achievement and something she should be really proud of, and we all here at Bees are extremely proud of her for sort of reaching that. And Across the team, I think you can look and pinpoint the improvement. Young players like Rebecca and Shai at centre half came on leaps and bounds last year. But then you can even look at Aria, who's had a couple of seasons at playing at at this kind of level now. But I think last year she still made massive sort of improvements and adapted to a very different way of playing than she'd perhaps been used to sort of previously. So yeah, improvements were massive last year, and we were pleased that of the 15, 16 players that we wanted to keep and put offers to, all but sort of 2 have stayed on, and those who didn't, is for locational reasons, one going to America and one sort of moving back to Wales. You can't do too much about at our level, unfortunately, but yeah, the fact that everybody else who we offered was keen to stay, I think is a great sign of the culture that we've built. And also the belief within the group of what we can go on and achieve if we stick together and carry on the journey that we've started.
So looking into the summer now, you've also brought in some new faces as well as a returning face to the club with Raya Weiss back in the defence of the Bees. Can you tell us what it means to have her back, for example, but also how happy are you with the signings you've made so far?
Yeah, look, bringing Raya back, I think was a great opportunity for us that's presented itself. And obviously I wasn't here when she was at the club previously, but she's a player that's played at the levels that we want to get back to. So for us, that bit of experience, that bit of been there, done that, was something that we sort of identified as perhaps missing a little bit from the squad last year. So yeah, when a player of Raya's quality comes up, it's hard to say no. So it's great that she's back, and you can already see the impact that she's making on the girls around her. But yeah, like I said, last season, as successful as we felt it was for year one, we know that we still have some work to do to get to ultimately where we want to be. And part of that we felt, in the spring of the end of last season, was that we needed to strengthen the squad in certain areas to give us a little bit more depth, and in other places a little bit more quality. So we worked quite hard over the end of last season and the off season to try and bring in the targets that we wanted to, and yeah, very, very happy with how things are looking right now.
So the team returned to training last month, and you're also halfway through pre-season. So it's been great to see some of the girls. They've had some playing time together, they've had some bonding time together. How do you feel it's been going overall so far for both yourself and the squad?
I think it's been a really good start, and I think, again, we talked about the continuity of making sure we retain the core of the squad. I think that's helped massively, just in terms of us picking up where we left off from last season, but also with the integration of the new signings and getting them up to speed really quickly. I certainly feel we're well ahead of schedule and sort of where I thought we would be at this stage, which is a great place to be. This group and the culture that we've tried to instill here is one of real honesty and hard work, and that's been top notch ever since the girls have been back. They've put a real shift in. They look fit. They look sharp. We're playing some really good football again, and Thursday night in the Maidenhead game was another example of that. So yeah, very pleased with how we've begun. But again, it's early days, and we had a conversation on Sunday. Regarding the fact that our standards need to stay at the highest possible level to make sure that we run into the first half of the season at full capacity.
So just picking up again what you mentioned a bit earlier in this interview, it's been a bit of some of a change as well with some players and members of your coaching team having to move on, as you mentioned, for relocation and other opportunities. How has the team been adapting to these changes, would you say?
Change is normal, especially at this level of the game. And to be fair, I don't think the change or the turnover has actually been that much here. As I said, we kept 15 on from last year, plus a couple of others that were out on loan, etc. So we have retained the core of the squad, the majority of the team. But naturally, where this isn't people's full-time jobs, work and life takes people elsewhere. So yeah, there's always going to be a small amount of turnover and churn. Again, I think the sign or the fact that the vast majority of the people that we wanted to keep at the club are still here is a hugely positive sign of how successful last season was, but also just what people think of this as an environment and a place to be, which is, perhaps not where the club's been in previous years. So I'm really pleased that we've been able to enact that change and sort of bring the club to kind of where it is at the moment, which is in a great place to kick on and look to move towards the next levels now.
So, with the start of the season on the horizon, you and the team you head back to where you finished last season. First game of the season away to Cheshire United. How prepared do you feel going into this first league game? I know you mentioned you're looking pretty good in pre-season, but obviously pre-season and league, would you say has a different sort of feel to it?
Yeah, look, we're still only halfway through pre-season, right? So I think as good as it's been so far, we know, and as we discussed with the players, we've still got a lot of work to do. That's for sure. I'm happy that things are on the right track, and as I said, I think we're probably a little bit ahead of where I would have necessarily expected us to be right now, but we're still some way off being where we need to be. On that first Sunday, 17th of August, when we go back to Cheshire. So lots of hard work for us to do, both on the grass and off it as well. But early signs are encouraging. Everyone, I think, knows what they need to do to make sure that we get to that start line in the best shape we can. But most importantly, we're in a position to sustain that over the course of the season, because this league is brutal. It's relentless. You cannot drop a point. It's killer if you're looking for those promotion targets, which we are this year. So we know that we've got to be on it from day one, and we've got to see that through for the full 10 months.
So speaking on more change as well, the league has introduced a new style in the League Cup this year, starting off in a group stage format, and then the teams will go off facing in knockout stages. What do you make of this new change heading into the season?
I think it's a really positive move, and definitely one that I welcome. I think the more games we can play, the more competitive matches we can get in, the better. Big fan of it from my perspective, is it gives us, like I said, 3 extra competitive games. I'd love to see more work being done around expanding the leagues across the National League. I think that's the obvious next step for continuing to grow the game, and I think a lot of clubs now are at the position where the infrastructure is there, and we're ready to grow the programme and the schedule. So for me, from my perspective, the more competitive games we have, the better. So it's definitely a welcome change from my perspective.
So looking ahead now throughout this new season coming, have you set any expectations for the team, and have you set any specific goals with any of the players that you'd like to hopefully focus on this season?
Yeah, look, I think the goal for this season is straightforward. It's promotion. When I came into the club last summer, the club were very clear about where they wanted to take things and where we wanted to be. And quite clear on that timeline as well. And we had last year, which I said was for me was a very successful year in the sense of the work that we did around the place to get the foundations right. But again, we don't want to be a tier 14. We want to be back into tier 3 as quickly as possible, and then making moves to move this club back to WSL 2, which obviously it was a founding member of. So for us this year, it's all eyes on promotion, and it's going to be an incredibly tough ask. The standard of this league is just getting ridiculous now in terms of the investment that's coming into it. Fulham coming up, and the budget that they have, they'll be super strong. All their facilities, QPR have made obviously big investments over the summer, and I expect them to be very strong. Chatham are whilst they don't necessarily have the badge of the the QPRs, Fulhams and Norwiches, they're a very good side, experienced side, so they'll be right up there. And then of course you've got Norwich that have moved to a full-time programme, so it's going to be extremely competitive, and that's why I was sort of touching on the fact that I think whoever wins this league this year has got to be on it, at it, every day they're in training, every game. Because it's going to be such a hard-fought contest, but that's exciting. That's an exciting place to be, right? We're a club that wants to be, up there as one of the the leading clubs in the country, as it was a few years ago, and it's our job as staff and as players to try and bring the club back to those days.
Well, definitely exciting season to come, hopefully. But just to finish off this interview here, have you got any messages you'd like to share to the Bees fans out there and just anyone watching this video at all?
Yeah, I said last year, massive thanks for all the support last season. It was great, but this year I'd love to see that go up another level as well. The football that we play, I think, is extremely entertaining. The quality of this league now is just an absolute joke as well. So I really want and would encourage any Bees fans, any Barnet fans, anyone associated with the club, get yourselves down on Sundays and come and watch us. We're going to need all the support we can get this year to get it over the line against the competition that we face. So yeah, get yourselves down to the Bees Stadium, 2 o'clock kickoffs on Sundays, great atmosphere, good football, and yeah, I'm hoping for really good turnouts this year.
Well, Dan, thank you very much for your time today and best of luck for the season ahead.
Thanks, Alfie.